Okay, I don't see anything, but okay.
Okay, I think we're live.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everyone. Very nice to be back on YouTube, back online, back with webinars. Has been some weeks, but yeah, we are very happy to finally show you all what Nexus version 1.2 is all about. This has been our last update. We can say it's by far the best version that is out there of Trufflepig Nexus. We've put a lot of work into the features that we will present you, and yeah, we are very excited for what is to come. I can't wait for Chris, my co-founder, to show you and also to show me what's behind this update. Just a short introduction. My name is Aaron. I'm co-founder and CEO at Trufflepig Forensics. Basically the business guy in here. I take care of all the boring stuff, you might say. The exciting stuff I leave to Chris, who is our co-founder and CTO, and the brain behind Trufflepig Nexus, you can say.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction. Hi. So as Aaron already mentioned, my name is Chris, also co-founder at Trufflepig, and also a warm welcome from my side. And I will lead you through some of the changes of 1.2. There has been a lot going on, so I can't get into all the patch details, but yeah, I will show you most of the most important updates and features that we brought in.
So great that you all made it. For those who are coming in a bit later, just a reminder, and for everyone, you can always ask questions. We are happy to answer them directly or after our presentation. We will start by giving you a bit of a review on the update, as we said, and we also have some nice sneak peek into the next version release of Trufflepig Nexus. And of course, the more interaction there is, the happier we are, the better, and the more probably you can also get out of it, so don't hesitate to ask whenever you want in the chat. So I would say, well, buckle up. I will hand the word over to Chris, who will take you now on a wild ride through Trufflepig Nexus version 1.2, sorry.
Yeah, thanks. So short disclaimer maybe. We've had small technical issues with our streaming equipment, so the sneak peek will only be, or I can't show anything because I don't have the version in this Windows installation here, but I will talk you through some of the changes we already made, and that will come in the 1.3 release. But first, about 1.2. So we do have quite a number of new features and improvements. We have some bug fixes, and as mentioned, I will also go through some next steps that we have coming up in the next release. So new features, we do have hibernation file support finally, and part of the technical issues is, unfortunately, I can't show it right now because I don't have any hibernation file on this system, which is really unfortunate. But anyways, it does work. It has, because of technical limitations, not all the, or doesn't show all the features that we have. So for example, all file-related artifacts cannot be shown in hibernation files. As a small explanation, so for example, registry files or registry hives, they are loaded into memory when Windows boots up. And when you go to hibernation, it will store all relevant RAM contents in the hibernation file. But it won't store any content that is already present in other files, because that wouldn't make any sense. It would just write content that is already present in a different file to disk, which would be completely stupid. So, for example, the registry hives do not contain any artifacts for hibernation or analyzed hibernation files, which is also the case in other tools. So even if you convert a hibernation file with hiber to bin and then analyze it with any tool, you won't get any registry artifacts. we do want to improve on that. So our goal is that you can basically provide a disk image, and the hibernation file will be fetched automatically, and then all the registry information and all that stuff will get fetched from the disk. So you can put in either a disk or a hard drive or a memory image or both, and you will get all what we can find with correlations from disk to memory artifacts. That's our vision. That's what we want for the product to be. It will take some time until it's done, but yeah, that's what we are aiming for. Then other features, for example...
Sorry, Chris, to
Yes?
interrupt, but can you elaborate a bit more on what we needed to do in order to get hibernation files running, how that is different from what's currently out there, and maybe some of the plans related to the hibernation file extraction feature?
Okay, sure. So there are two algorithms. So the hibernation file basically is a relatively complex structure. You have the so-called compression sets in there, which are basically a container for up to 16 memory pages that can go into one compression set. And they are then compressed with one of two algorithms, either the Microsoft Express or the Microsoft Express Huffman compression algorithm. And then you have some metadata about where to decompress those pages in the physical memory range. So what we did is writing a parser for that metadata file format stuff. And we've built our own metadata structure on top of that we can search through. So we basically built a reader, so we can just read from any physical address that we have in that file. So we parse the metadata, put it in our structure, and when we call read on the interface, we will take a look at if that physical address is present in the metadata, and if it is, we know where the compression set is, and we can decompress the data from there and pass it on to the rest of the analysis. So the entire analysis builds on those reader interfaces, and we can also stack them. And this is basically the entire infrastructure relying on those interfaces that we've implemented. And in that case, it will just take a look at the metadata, decompress the data, and pass it on further up the chain. The problem here is that I mentioned there are 16 pages in a compression set, and you can't just decompress 8 bytes if you want to read a pointer, for example, or some uint64 integer value. No, that's not possible. So you need to decompress 16 pages, which is slow, really slow. So what we did is we built a cache that will hold up to a specific number. I actually don't know which number we took in the end, but a few thousand pages. And we'll store them in a last recently used cache. So when we access a specific memory page, it will be stored in there. So every time we read a compression set, all 16 pages will go into the LRU cache. And when we read a specific value, we will first look up the cache if the page is present in cache. And if it is, we will just fetch it from there and can directly read without any further decompression or whatever. We can just read from it. That significantly improved performance. So before it was completely unusable. One analysis took I think I didn't even let it run through the entire thing because after an hour or so I was too impatient. So I implemented the LRU cache, and now I'm not entirely sure how long it was, but it was a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes maybe. For the entire hibernation file, and it was, I think, a 64 gigabyte image that I used. So that was quite okay, I would say. Yeah, one more thing about the Hibernation file, because we do have two complete scan passes on the entire physical memory, and I thought that would be too slow for the Hibernation file because of the compression stuff. So what I basically did is the first pass will scan for very specific architecture and operating system specific data structures. And I found ways with the data present from the Hibernation file, metadata, to get those values, those initial starting values, directly from the Hibernation file with a bit of low-level magic. So I was able to gather all these information that we need from the first pass and completely skip the first pass for Hibernation file support. That is also possible for VMem and for ELF files, which we will probably implement at some point when we have some time for it. So that should also improve scanning performance for those file types. So that is something that we will do at some point if someone is annoyed by Nexus being slow for these file formats. Also, maybe worth mentioning is that we want to, because it was quite a hassle to get through the Hibernation stuff, and we feel that we should also contribute back to the community. We will start open sourcing parts of it. So we will probably start with the compression libraries and get them into a state where we are really satisfied with them in the next couple of weeks, and put them out and then see where it takes us, the road to open sourcing. And my personal dream is, but we still need to talk a bit about that, to get a full Hibernation file library out there. That's about the Hibernation files. So I think now we can move on to Shimcache and AM cache. So Shimcache artifacts or AppCompat cache artifacts are a part of the registry. So there is a registry key with a lot of binary data that can be parsed, and it gives information about compatibility or potential compatibility issues with applications that were started. So they basically contain starting time of or load time of DLLs and executables. So you can see which applications were started recently on a system if that registry is readable in a given image. That is always, so in the specifically in the registry, that's always a bit, you need a bit of luck because the pages get swapped out quite frequently, or are in some transition lists or wherever, so not directly accessible. So they are not always available. It's similar with the AM cache, so also there are a lot of keys and values involved there from the registry. That's basically which applications were started and installed. A small history about that. So we can actually take a look at the AM cache in this image. So in this image, we did not have luck, and there was no Shimcache found, unfortunately. But I can already spoiler a bit, because I know that this page, or the page containing the Shimcache in this specific image, is in transition. So when Windows realizes, okay, a certain page is not used a lot, it will get swapped out at some point. And when Windows decides to swap out a page, it will not directly swap it. It will put it to a so-called transition list, and then it's processed further by some other thread, some system thread taking care of those things. And And we are already planning on implementing transition list support so that we can parse those lists and fetch pages that are still in memory, but not swapped out yet entirely, but not directly available in the page tables of a process where you would normally find them easily with the virtual memory reader that we have. So this is basically what we call our exception handler or soft fault handler. So when a page is not available, a soft fault is triggered and the operating system will start looking for that page. And we have a handler for that for compressed pages, so for the memory compression in Windows. And we also want to add support for the transition lists there. And in this specific image, we will then get the shimcache artifacts from there. And yeah, for the AM cache, we already got the artifacts. So we can quickly take a look here. So we see that there were applications started, or this application was started at that time. We can see the SHA-1 hash of that file, which is prepended with some other value. So we still need to strip it down to the actual SHA-1 hash. But that is not too much work. So we already got a human comparable version here. So if you hash that file, then you will see if it's the same hash or not, regardless if there is some padding here or not. Yeah, and I think that's it about those artifacts. We also have the AirGap license system improved, and I can show you how that looks. So before we only had the downloader here. So if you want to add your license or use your license, you could enter the license key here. And then it was downloaded by Nexus or by the downloader in the background and added to Nexus, which is not very handy on an air-gapped system. So specifically for air-gapped systems, we now have a way. So this is a license key. We now have a way on our website, and we will also properly link that and document it in a couple of days, or in the next few days. So when I add that key here, I will directly get a license download. So this license I can just copy and add to Nexus here in the settings license, and just add the license, save it, and I have the unlimited version of Nexus. And we will also change the UI in Nexus so that you can just upload the file very easily there. Probably in the 1.3 update. So then you just download that file, put it to a USB stick, go to your offline installation. Best case, drag and drop it to the settings here, and you have your license activated. So that's it with the license. And we also want to change the workflow for online installations so that you can also enter the license key directly in Nexus, and you don't have the problem with that extra application that runs in the background. So we also want to get rid of that, which will also probably be in the 1.3. So already a bit of sneak peek into the 1.3. Then we have a lot of bug fixes. So this is by far not the full list of bug fixes. This is, I think, the list for 1.2, the minor release, and now we have already like 3 patch releases with more patches. So we did a significant performance improvement. This was basically so when looking through the kernel for artifacts, you need a lot of offsets inside the kernel. So like global variables used to access certain artifacts. And we are leveraging pattern scans to find specific functions, accessing those offsets, and then we extract the to the full to the entire rest of the application. Okay, now we're back.
Thanks. And thanks for pointing it out, Søren.
Yeah.
Nice to see you here as well. Great
yeah,
to have
nice
you.
to see you. Okay, so the performance issues in the pattern scanner. Yeah, so now we are pretty effectively filtering the regions that are actually worth scanning. So we reduced the amount to scan from, I think, 800 on that specific test image, from 800 megabytes to like 8 megabytes or 7 megabytes. And that reduced scanning time in that specific area from like 30, 40 seconds to 100 milliseconds or so. Then we brought in new filter options for, I think in that version, sorry I get confused because in the 1.3 we already got new ones. I think it was IP addresses in that version, and also we can actually take a look. So when going to network connections, there should now be the option for local address. There we go. So we can filter for specific IP addresses, and also for enums. So I think the state should be a proper enum. So there we can choose from that enum all existing states or values of that enum and filter for it. So those are new in the 1.3. And speaking about the 1.3, sorry, and in the 1.3, we have a couple of other new ones. So for string searches, we have regular expression support. And we have case-sensitive search, or so a button where you can choose if it should be case-sensitive or non-sensitive, and an invert checkbox so that you can filter out, for example, if you say, okay, you don't want a time from, or you have a timestamp and you want to filter out all 2020 timestamps, then you can just check that box for 2020 and it should filter out all 2020 dates. Just as an example, I used it for filtering huge tables of data. I will explain later in the rest of the preview for the 1.3 where I used it and it really came in handy. But yeah, that not filter is also really, really cool. Okay, so metadata improvements, I can directly go back. So if I remember correctly, here in file objects, for example, those are basically artifacts from files that we still find in the memory. The path was not shown. Oops, sorry. And the problem with that was that the label in the beginning is not filterable and not sortable. But with this now we can also filter for path and search in here for example, for ends with, then search for EVTX and find the event log files that are potentially mapped to memory. And yeah, that's really handy.
Chris, there's a question also from
sure.
Søren. How come not all columns can be filtered and sorted?
Oh yeah, so in this specific case, so when a column is not sortable or not filterable, then it is probably a database column. So for example, or a metadata column, whatever. In this case, we have a JavaScript function in the background displaying that column here, and it is a label that should display the most important information about an artifact. So when you go to process, for example, you don't just have the process name here, but the process ID and then the process name. So this is what makes this process unique in most cases, and is most usable for a user. So if you want to reference an artifact from somewhere else, so let's say I go to handles and I have a reference field here, then the label is displayed here, or the process. In this case, of course, it's a SVC host, but it might be something else because the column doesn't. So if it's a different column, it can't show anything. And those are basically the labels, and they are not sortable and filterable because they are not from the database directly, but from just metadata fetched from JavaScript. That will change at some point. So we want to put it completely in the database and run the queries in the database, and then you can also filter for that. But right now that's not yet possible.
So what is affected by that?
Basically all clickable columns. So actually you can sort them, but it's then sorted by ID, not by the actual value of that column. But you can't filter for it because there is no useful way of filtering right now, because you would need to interact with the database here, and that's not implemented yet, and it's a lot of work to do that. So yeah, but this is the state here and the reasoning behind. And I think there were more metadata improvements. I think also in the registry. So in the hives, when we go to the hives, we now have the keys and the values. I'm not entirely sure if that was the case before, but now we can directly go to the hives and click through all the keys and values in there, and also the subkeys and values of that specific registry key. I think some of that was missing in the version before, so we introduced it here for, in general, better searchability and usability. And I think there was more. I'm not entirely sure if that was really 1.2, but in the Windows station we now have the session linked. So before there was the session ID, and now we have the reference to the session and can jump directly to that session and take a look at what's going on there. And we will continue doing that kind of improvements. Also, network connections. Okay, so network connections, I think the type and also the state were strings and not enums, and they are now enums, and therefore better filterable, and it's better usable than before. I think those were the main changes in metadata for that version. Then the parser issue. So the problem there was that some data was not properly shown how it should be when in the registry, and the reason was that there are certain points in the registry where a different hive might be linked for some reason, and we went. So when you have the registry tree, we went in depth first, and then take a look at the rest. So if you have the top level structure, and you have two keys there with subkeys, then the first thing we did was taking a look at the first key and then all subkeys, and but the first subkey of the subkey, and then went into depth, and then when we came back, we were looking at the other subkeys. And because there was some confusion in memory, and we were taking a look at which keys we were already taking a look at, and some of them were taken a look at before, they were ordered improperly they were shown in a wrong key in that regard. So we fixed the order we were going through the registry, and that fixed that issue that registry keys might have been shown in a wrong key. And then the network connection fixes. Yeah, there was an issue where we, I think for Windows 7 mostly, that the IP could not be extracted properly for, I think it was UDP connections. I'm not entirely sure anymore, to be honest. And then we've had quite a lot of other bug fixes after that for the patch releases, which I can't remember all of them, but some of them were filtering issues. So most of them were
just a hint. They are in the changelog.
Oh yeah,
online.
Yeah. So you can take a look at our website. At our website. Sorry. Oh, and I can switch to English. And there is the changelog, and yeah, there are all the issues that we fixed in that specific release, and you can take a look at them. And I can take a look at the most important ones because it gets too much if I go through each of them. But yeah, I think the vmem project issue was pretty annoying. So when you've had a vmem image and you analyzed it, and then you closed the browser, reopened it, went back to the project, and we're looking at specifically processes, then they could not be loaded again. And basically that session was broken and you had to reload in order to get back to useful results. That was because of a protocol issue that we've had in the communication between the different components. There was just one feature missing, basically, and that one feature was used specifically in vmem. In that context, was specifically used in vmem images. So that was a problem, but is fixed in the 1.3. Yeah, and I think that is it for the bug fixes. The next steps, we do have Windows 8 and 8.1 support coming up. That's the simplest one. That's why I chose it first. Sorry, I should go use the order of things. So search improvements. I mentioned that before. So we have regex and the checkboxes for inverted search and case-sensitive or insensitive search. Then we want initial event log support. That means we want to parse the event log files and display the most common and most useful forensic artifacts from the event logs. We will add more in the future, but in the first version we will only probably support a couple, like 5 or 10 most important event log types. And the rest will probably be shown as more or less JSON dump. And we will add proper support with proper filtering and everything later on. Then what I'm really excited about, finally, hard drive artifacts. So what we did so far is we re-added them in the new protocol, which was, now that we have the infrastructure, pretty easy. And I added EWF support, so for EO1 files, which was a bit of a pain because they are fragmented, and SleuthKit, which we use for disk analysis, the API doesn't, so the C++ API or C API doesn't support it natively to fetch the other files, so I had to implement that manually. And actually, I used that for a case. So we had a fraud investigation case, and I wanted a very specific feature, basically exporting a filtered list of a recursive directory structure for, I think, orphan files and the recycle bin. And maybe I'm just dumb, I don't know, but I couldn't find that in Autopsy. I was just able to find how to export the orphan file top-level directory structure, but not recursively. So I implemented the support for that in Nexus and was able to filter, and that's where I used the inverted search as well to exclude files that are not relevant, or groups of files. So I could strip down a list of like 8,000 or 9,000 files to maybe 900 that are relevant in that case, and I could just export them as CSV and attach them to the report, so that the IT guys of that company can take a look at the files which are relevant and which are not. That's also the advanced filtering, which is a bit redundant with the search improvements. I just saw that now. Sorry for that. But yeah, that's, I think, pretty much it with the next steps. Thanks a lot for your attention. It was nice doing a webinar again. And I'm really looking forward to questions.
Yeah, thanks also from my side, Chris. Very thorough, very deep explanations again. I'm always stunned by that, to be honest, when you start talking. But yeah, I hope you all could follow at least to some degree, maybe a bit more than me.
Yeah, sorry.
In some parts.
I'm not at 100% today, so I hope my explanations weren't too confusing or confused from my side. So.
Yeah, great. And so, yeah, if you want, if you have any questions, or if you want to give us feedback as well, with maybe successes or also problems that you had when using Nexus, you can always do that. You can do that right now, or of course, if you want to do it a bit more confidentially, you can reach out to us via email or call us. We're always happy to assist. And yeah, I mean the stuff in the 1.3 release. So this is what we've planned right now. There could of course be other stuff that we add.
Yeah, sure.
While working towards it, but this is what we can foresee right now, and especially the hard drive support, I think is really gonna lift up the usability, the usefulness of Nexus by a lot, because you can then correlate also the artifacts, the memory artifacts from Nexus and the hard drive artifacts. Well, at least at some point, of course, it will take us some time to make that really smooth, but you have it in one interface and can work with it, and I think that will make things so much faster. It did already for us in this one case that we just told you about, and will also help us in the future to work better with own cases.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really want to push for now is some assistance for writing reports, because I really don't like writing reports. It's just so annoying. So I will try to automate as much as I can. And then also, of course, release it in the product. But yeah, that will be work in progress for some time now. But we are really looking to improve report writing in general.
Yeah, and I think also timeline is very high up the list. Yeah, I mean, having
definitely.
a proper timeline to build a case around it, to show how an incident happened, for example. This is very, very high in priority for us as well. Let's see when we can make it happen. But I think with with the basis that we now introduced in Nexus 1.1 and now even stabilized in 1.2, we have a lot for what is necessary to introduce. Finally, also the timeline in Nexus.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks again, sir, and thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
Greetings to Denmark, and we are very happy that we could finally get in the Hyperfile support. Sorry that you had to wait a bit longer. We were really hoping to get it out sooner, but we had to first take care of the infrastructure, like of database and the whole stuff behind it, because the data was getting too much, that we had to handle, and we could not have done it. We could not have done it without the database and the infrastructure.
Yeah, so as I don't see any more questions, thanks for the webinar. You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time. I think from Turkey. Greetings to Turkey.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. And I think that's it from our side. Have a nice evening. Have a nice day wherever you are in the world. And hopefully we will see each other again.
Yeah, again, you can always reach out to us. You can follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We also have our own podcast. If you want to hear more from us, it's a Truffleyzer. You can find it on our website, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We are everywhere, basically. And of course, you can also always just download the current version of Trufflepig Nexus for free as a demo with a 5 GB image limit on our website and test it out. If you need assistance or support with something, just reach out to us. We are normally pretty fast in answering questions.
Oh, hang on. I think there is a question coming.
Yeah, there's also a question regarding the next webinar. So when is the next webinar? Well, when we have the next update, basically. So when there's something newsworthy about the company, or when we have something dropping, like a new big update, then we will, of course, do webinars. Okay, so a so-called stupid question. Well, I don't know.
No, that's not stupid. Definitely not. That's a very good question. So do we support encryption key artifacts? That's a very interesting question. So we've had proof of concept stage support for VeraCrypt containers and full disk encryption before, and a very early stage version for BitLocker decryption. So those two were partially working. I've tried to get BitLocker working for a couple of hours a few weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago or something. It was related to a case, so I couldn't take too much time for it. In those few hours, I was able to extract keys, but I was not able to unlock the disk with them. Not entirely sure if it was due to wrong keys or... Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what the problem was. It might be the software I used to decrypt the drives, that I used it wrong, or that the software was not properly working, because I know that I got our own reader working a year ago, or a bit more than a year ago, for the first 10 pages or so. The issue there was that that we did some rework and the readers didn't work anymore because we are using a different crypto library now. So we had to change a lot, and it wasn't possible to just use the stuff from before. But we want to have it. That's also one of the reasons why we initially started integrating SleuthKit, so that we can... the camera battery is low. I need to talk faster. It was possible to decrypt them, and it will be possible again. That was, as I mentioned, the initial reasoning behind integrating SleuthKit, that we can directly decrypt drives on the fly and analyze them.
So any outlook, how long it might take, or when it will be added again?
So as we still need some work for proper disk support and testing around disk support for the 1.3, I'm not entirely sure if we can get it into 1.3, especially not all ciphers. So when we are talking about VeraCrypt, it's easier to implement VeraCrypt support than BitLocker, at least for me, because I know VeraCrypt pretty well, and BitLocker is a bit black magic to me. But I think at least for AES, it should be very possible for the 1.3 VeraCrypt. But I can't promise anything. For BitLocker, I need to take a second look, because that was... I just couldn't get it working. But with a bit more testing time, I should also be able to do that for 1.3, depending on how much time I can spare on it.
Yeah, but again, if we have both, like the encryption algorithm or decryption algorithm and the disk image support, we can then really automate the whole chain from, finding the keys in memory to decrypting the container automatically with the key that we have found, or with the hash of the key. So this is something that we can really do, and basically it's one-click decryption then of a container. We had it working again at some point just for specific use cases, but this is where we want to go back to, and an important step for that is the SleuthKit integration that we are now pretty close to making work, or to stabilizing. It's working in a proof of concept state, but we just need to work a bit on making it stable so that we can all present it all to you. Okay, I see some happy faces. We're happy that's good news. We're always excited for it. Crypto stuff is always some of the most exciting stuff that you can get into your product, I think.
Yeah, and it was actually the VeraCrypt stuff was my initial goal when I started out with memory forensics. Like VeraCrypt was my first goal to crack that.
Yeah, you wrote your bachelor thesis on it, right?
Yeah. Okay, I think...
Let's wait a couple of seconds more. Maybe there's something dropping in again. But if not again, just to repeat myself, we are online. You can follow us everywhere. You can get all the news. Next webinar is coming as soon as we have something newsworthy. And in the meantime, you can always reach us, as Mika pointed out in the chat. He's also happy to receive your emails via email. Your emails via email to receive your mail electronically. You can also send us like a normal letter, if you have a bit more time, or if you want to see our handwriting, that works as well.
You don't want to see mine, definitely. Okay, I think that's it with questions.
Yeah, thanks to all of you.
Yeah.
Thanks also to everyone who's joining in a bit later on YouTube. Next time check out your notifications in LinkedIn or wherever you got it by email maybe, and you will be live the next time. So yeah, thanks to all of you. Thanks to the community. Stay curious, I would say. Yeah. Keep investigating, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you the next time we go live.
Yeah. Have a nice day. Bye bye.